and this is a good time to switch our segment to talking about our website, talking about Handigraphs, because we have that on the website. Boom! Oh, look at that! Look at that! For those of you that are listening to this as a podcast, you have to envision a board with a lot of numbers and a lot of data and a list of pictures, and it's blue and red. And you could, here's the ASMR of you hearing the sound of my voice talking about blue and red. But if you're watching this, you can totally see what we're talking about. But if you, right now I'm on the pictures stuff. And if you go to our batters tab, this is like a really good example. I'm going to use Ronald Acuna because I just think he does whatever today. This is exactly what you want. His pull rates and his center. You basically want guys that are in good form. Their pull rates are like are higher than a third, are in 35% territory, and their center stuff. Spencer's reminding me that I gotta tell everybody: blue is bad, red is good. It is the opposite of life. But so anyway, Acuna's pull rate's great, and his center rate is great. He's basically hitting the ball and getting the most of the power out of that. He's not getting a ton of oppo, which is fine because he's hitting it. He's using his body the exact right way to get the ball there. So some of this is also watching it and just knowing that, but this is also part of the reason why I just think that Ronald Acuna is just going to absolutely deck one today.
I mean, he's also got a 1.2 OPS so far this season. So
last spot,
you could honestly just look at that and go, okay.
Yeah. He's probably going to do it. So, all right. So what we wanted to do, though, we wanted to use this segment today. For those of you who don't know, Handigraphs is our dashboard that has pulled data. We wanted to have a place that could have all the data that we could use to cap any sort of baseball game, all our baseball bets. You have it starters, you have it team stats, you have bullpen, you have batters. We didn't want to keep going to different websites, so we did this. On top of this, one of the things that and when I say we, I mean CJ, because he is the tech load behind this. I am just the mouth. Is that we created our own proprietary split that's in here. You can't find 30, 60, 90 last plate appearances, and that allows you to get, I think, a better granular look at a batter and a pitcher form than you would when normally you would see on any website. Hey, here's how a guy's been over the last 2 weeks, or here's how a guy's been over the last month. These big periods of time, plate appearances against types of batters, it's almost the next iteration, in our opinion, of a heat map. And there's a lot of cool ways you can use it. And we were going to kind of talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah, before we run through kind of an example of that split, because I will call out, you can get the last X plate appearance. Like if you go to Fangraphs and you go to, let's say, Cal Raleigh's game log, if you start playing around enough, you can get the number of plate appearances. The issue with that is that you have to do a lot of tinkering in order to sort of get down to that exact number. Whereas these splits are, you just immediately go, as Adam's just showing right here, like you have last 3 games. If I want to go to a player's game log, I've got to figure out calendar wise. I think that's the biggest difference between what Handigraphs does and what, if you go to Baseball Savant, Fangraphs, sure, you can get to the information, but you do have to, it's a much more in terms of calendar date based splits. And you have to figure out when those players played. Obviously, there's times when the players get hurt. You have to kind of try and figure out which games they missed in that sense. So
double headers, all sorts of things.
The whole concept of this is not necessarily, some of this data, yes, like there's some stuff you'll see, especially on the starters page that Adam's on here, like last 30, last 60, there are some splits like data, for example, like expected batting average, slugging, that is not calculated on a plate appearance basis anywhere. But the whole goal is to save you time so that you can quickly go to a dashboard like this and say, all right, I got 20 minutes before, my kid's waking up from their nap. How can I go and find the pitcher who's most likely going to strike out the side in the top of the first inning? And you can immediately go to this dashboard and do that. So I think that's what we're going to walk through now.
Yeah. So I think this is what's good. And for those of you that were like, I was coming here hoping that we would have you guys would have a guest, so it's going to make jokes. Colby will be back on the show very soon. We promise. We're just literally taking a break from having any guests that are associated with Chicago because we had 6 straight episodes of Chicago-based guests, and Colby, who is pretty much the unofficial 4th member of this pod at this point, will be back. I know that's what you all want. You will get it at some point, but we're going to actually just talk about the site, because what we want to do is show everybody these. We're almost at the midway point of the MLB season, and I think that folks that can use this site can basically find, oh wow, this is really helping me out. So CJ and I are both going to find things that how we can use it that are fun markets that you can end up betting. I'm going to start with first plate appearance K, or even first plate appearance home run, as I'm thinking with Mr. Ronald Acuna Jr. today. So the first place that what I'm generally doing when I'm going to Handigraphs is I'm starting with the last 3 starts. And then I am getting a little bit more granular sometimes when I want to see last 3 at home or last 3 away, because sometimes there are people, I only care about home road splits for pitchers and 1 baseball team or 2 baseball teams, the Tampa Bay Rays, or 3, Tampa Bay Rays, the Colorado Rockies, and the Kansas City Royals. The Royals, because they're cheating, and because the Rays and the Rockies have home ballparks that have very different dimensions than they do anywhere else. And you could argue the A's do too, but they've kind of evened out. So that being said, sight lines matter on home and road splits for pitchers, which affects their control. It affects their strike zone. So that's why you get guys that are usually younger pitchers that are nasty at home, because they're very used to the coaches and stuff that they have at home and the sight lines that they have on home plate and everything around it. And they're able to block things out. That is just one of the ways to use it. So keeping it simple, we'll go last 3 games. I look at who has a very high K percentage, but I'm also looking at dudes that have high swing rates on their strikes, and called and whiff rates. And basically the guy who looks like he is the best one. There are 2 that look good today to look at, because I want red in all 3 zones. We have whiff rate here, which is great for this. Chad Patrick, Spencer Schwellenbach. Those are the 2 folks that I really care about right now. Comparing with their regular season stuff. Schwell also has red in those 3 areas. Chad Patrick, blue, but it's his crazy at home. So taking that, I means that I want to look at a Pirate and I want to look at a Met, but let's use Chad Patrick, because it's going to be a little bit easier here. So Chad Patrick, I look at then his splits. Is he better against righties or is he better against lefties? He's much better against righties. So now we've filtered this down to, I want to find a right-handed batter on Pittsburgh. Going to then the batters tab, I can use the right-handed, the last 30 plate appearances, who is in terrible form. I look up Pittsburgh, and then I look at the K rates of the last 30 plate appearances versus right-handers. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot of good selections here, because I got in the batting order of their top 4 guys are all.
Are we looking at season stats for the Pirates right now?
No,
or are we looking at last 30?
Just the last. They scored 12 runs yesterday, and this is still the worst. The top 4 batters in this game have K rates above 25%. O'Neal Cruz is terrible. So I think I would venture to say he's the worst. He's the most overrated pitcher, or most overrated batter. I want to double check it on his last 60 plate appearances. Yeah, he's gotten worse. So his last 30, he's in especially bad form. O'Neal Cruz and Andrew Hutchinson have all blue, which is just saying they're just not making contact with the ball at all. If I look at their last 5, it's O'Neal Cruz is completely blue. So he's not even hitting lefties if you throw those in there. So now what I have done is I have filtered truly awful form of a specific batter. And I have a pitcher I know is really good with K stuff against right-handed batters. Final decision, O'Neal Cruz will be getting first plate appearance K today from me when that market opens. I rest my case. CJ?
Boom. That's it. See, you just kept I should have put the stopwatch there to see how long from start to finish. And you talk a lot too. So like, if you're doing this at home, you're not going to be talking as much as Adam as you go through this. So it's probably like half that time. So yeah, I mean, the cool thing too here is like, if you go into Cruz as well, like go back to right-handed pitching and click that split. There's also a lot of stats are available on the site that you can see, like leading indicators. So we have a glossary on the site. You'll see like there's a learn tab. If you ever go to that, there's like definitions for each of these metrics. If you're confused, I certainly would recommend like when you're using this, like start with one market. Don't try and encap 6 or 7 different things right away. Like start to figure out what are the metrics that you care. We say this all the time. Like figure out the metrics that you care about, focus on that market, and then figure out other markets that you know or kind of have a better understanding of those. But like back to Cruz, we have on right-handed pitching. If you go click the batters tab real quick again.
Yep.
We have a column there for, and yeah, click right-handed pitching. So we have a column for called strike whiff rate, which is typically a leading indicator of K rate. So if you have a really high
so
CSW,
bad. I'm sorry. I just used
right,
30% on the season. On the season.
that means these are basically what is the percentage of appearances where there's been or pitches rather where there's been a called strike or a whiff in that same plate appearance. And you can see like what 36% of
in his last 30 plate
appearances are that. And then the K rate is also awful. So I look at that and go, okay, well, that K rate makes a ton of sense. Whereas if you look at like Brian Reynolds, that K rate there might be a little bit of variance there. He might have been a little bit unlucky, maybe on either some calls or, in general, there's some other things that can potentially influence a K, and he's not necessarily seeing as many called strikes or whiffs. It could be a lot of just kind of quick counts as well. So like, that's just a quick kind of example there where you can say, if I'm seeing red next to blue, all right, maybe that K rate, there's a little bit more variance with it. But if I'm seeing, too dark red or too dark blue, not only does my leading indicator kind of tell me that there is something up here, but the result is also saying that. So just kind of makes you, I think, a little bit more confident in what you can end up trusting with some of the data.
One of the other things that I do on our site is I use our filter tab on here, and I do a K rate greater than or equal to, I do 25%. Because I know that that's dark blue, and I'll take the entire batters that are available today and I'll sort by team. And then basically this is last 30 plate appearances against a specific hand. It's really good against like lefties because you get people with really bad lefty splits. The risk you run is that they get lifted a lot of times, like the Jock Petersons and stuff in the world. But what I like to do is this is a really good way to go through and say, okay, which teams have a lot of targets that I would want to take for a K prop, or I would want to take for something else, for outs over, outs under something. So good example, look at Boston. So Jack Conowitz today is Kokanowitz or whatever, DP God, by the way, is not a strikeout pitcher. His line is at 4.5 at the over. But if you look at Boston, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of their 9 everyday players have K rates in what we consider very bad over the last 30 plate appearances. And if you do it by last 5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the 9 guys on the team. So if you wanted to just go and build a parlay of just, hey, I'm going to build a parlay of like guys to get Ks and not care about who even is on the other bullpen side, which you then can cross-reference, this is the way to do it. But having that saved filter, like putting that filter in there and doing that, that allows me to find with the plate appearance stuff who's a target on a team that's going to probably strike out a lot. Like if we're looking at lefties right now, I know Erod's like doesn't have the greatest K stuff right now, but the White Sox, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of 9 players on the White Sox have K rates above 30% in their last 30 plate appearances against lefties. Might be like you might get crazy value on an Erod K ladder today,
Yeah,
it's just one of the
this
things
is
I love
also
using.
a good opportunity to say, Handigraphs in a vacuum. Again, you can use Handigraphs to cap a bunch of props. If you want to go look at a hit rate for a specific team, so that example for Boston, you can go and see there's other apps out there. I know Hall of Fame Bets, you can see at least from the team side on the hit rates for that, but you can go and look
for the team Ks and stuff for the market.
Team Ks, you can see how often, regardless of the pitcher, have they gone over their team K prop number. And so you can use Handigraphs here as sort of like the starting point and then go in and sort of validate it through that. The other way that I think this is really useful, and another reason we had built this was I still use this, not as much as last year, but a constant sort of thing that Adam would needle me on was very heavy to using projections the last couple of years with player props and games for baseball. I kind of base a lot of my cap on, well, my projection or my model says this is what the number should be. And it was more of kind of just trusting the variables that went into the model. So what you can use this for, to me, though, is we've said this before on the show, use a projection to like maybe tell you a few interesting things to go look at. But then you can actually use Handigraphs to really get under the microscope and see, okay, does this make sense? Like, am I getting there with that projection, or is there other things that I'm kind of seeing from K rates, hard hit rate, et cetera, that backs that projection up? And that can, I think one of the most frustrating things you can do in betting sports in general is if you have a model and you just aren't winning and you're not sure if that model is based on, is it just variance? Is it the inputs that I'm using for a model or the projection? And you really are just kind of only looking at that like N sort of, 1.7 total bases to blame your bet on. But if you can look and say, hey, if you go at Acuna projected at 2.8 bases today, for example, you come into Handigraphs, you can within about 30 seconds say, all right, I get why that number is the number it is.
Right.
And that also, I think, can clear up a lot. You learn, I feel like, as you go by doing that, even if you just want to start and use projections to kind of find the bets that you want to go look for.
Yep. I mean, look, at somebody to make a line, someone had a model somewhere to do whatever. And this kind of helps you really find overall edges on things. There's wow, look at that. If Walker Buehler were lefty, huh? There's everybody on the Angels still K's against lefties. So that's it's just a good way. I'm gonna do it today I'm using Kachanowicz as an example. That dude had struck out 8 Yankees, and Red Sox are K'ing as much as the Yankees. You're gonna get crazy value on him to do it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of good ways that we can splice and dice on this stuff. And I know that we started this off by saying it's hitter season. I went immediately, how do you strike guys out? Is there stuff that you want me to show folks that you've been looking at on some of the batter props, and we can do that? And for those that are tuning in, just to reset, those that are tuning in, this is a very special episode of Dad's Bet Baseball, because we want to show you one of our kids, and that kid is our Handigraphs, and we hope that you enjoy it. We hope that you go to the site and subscribe and use it, and we hope that it helps you win bets, and we hope that it also gives you context into some of the things that we talk about each week, because we are usually citing stuff that is from the data from this, which, again, this data is publicly available data. We just put it into a dashboard to make your life faster and easier, but this way, we just saying, hey,
we just kind of
we Voltroned it, and we just want to make sure that you guys are using it so that it's this team stinks. And why does that team stink? Not just because Adam says so. No, they actually do. So, all right. Anyway, CJ, take it away.
Tie it back to the extra base hit stuff, because I can kind of quickly show you how I'll go to look for teams that I feel like are good values there. So there's 2 ways you can either go. We can start honestly on the batter side, and it's actually really similar to what you just did from the K how you're just kind of sorting by K. I'm just going and looking strictly at, I'll go in and sort, not even filter, but just go and sort by ISO.
I do this when I look for a home run bet. I just take ISOs that are higher than a certain amount.
So I'm looking for, so what guys on do I have 3 or 4 guys on a specific team today that have really high ISOs against that handedness of a pitcher? So you can see on for, and again, the last 30 plate appearance is also good for this too. So, you've got obviously James Wood, you've got Nathaniel Lowe up there. The one that's actually interesting to me though is probably a couple of the Mets guys. You've got Soto, you've got Nimmo in there. If we scroll down,
Nimmo is because, and I made a calendar reminder for next year. Nimmo, Juneteenth, Nimmo gets very, very upset and hits a lot of home runs around it. So I've marked my calendar. I marked it last year. I forgot, but next year, just know that Brandon Nimmo gets very upset on Juneteenth week. So
let you figure that out on your own, I guess.
People can Google it.
So
sure, Trevor Williams does too. Keep going.
So, but a couple guys on here though, Is Dean Kramer got a start upcoming? Because there's been a lot
No,
going
that was
on
yesterday. The Dean Kramer
internationally.
geopolitical start nailed it yesterday.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we always bring that up as if Israel is getting involved in something, go
The angry
go
Zionists
bet
in my DMs.
go bet on Dean Kramer. So yeah, but like you've got a couple of Mets there, and then what I'll do is if you go and actually click on Atlanta, you don't even have to go to the starters page. Just literally click Atlanta as the opponent.
I didn't know you could do that. Oh wait, this is new to me. I didn't know
Boom.
that.
So it takes you right to
when
the
did you
start.
wait? Time out. When did you build this?
You got to follow
Is this
the
new?
announcements in the Discord. Yeah, I
Yeah,
did this
I didn't
a
know
couple
we had
weeks
this.
ago.
This is great.
Yeah, it just automatically takes you to it. So now, in this case, I see a couple of Mets. I'm looking at Schwellenbach, and I'm not even going to look at versus right-handed batters. I'm just going to go to like +3 or last 5. But you can see, is there a pretty high hard hit rate in barrel? Like, you can actually scroll over and see like ISO against. And if that number is not super high, 185, that's actually a little bit higher than I
It's below them.
anticipated.
It's about the median for the league.
But for him, it's a little bit higher. But anyways, so I could quickly say, all right, look, there's some guys for the Mets that are hitting a bunch of extra base hits. Matchup today isn't necessarily fantastic for them from that perspective, but just kind of going through one by one on that, where you just go back to the batters tab and say, okay, well, like which other teams had, 3 or 4 guys with really high ISO in terms of extra base hits, and you will find a pitcher or 2 or 3 that you're going to have somebody who has been giving up a lot of barrels, a lot of hard hits, a lot of fly balls, line drives, and then you'll have be able to kind of quickly match and merge for some of those different players. So like, who do we have on? I think there's a bunch of Cubs in here too, right? Oh, so you could also just add the filter as well. So like,
I just did a filter for it to make it easy.
Actually,
I'm just
twins
looking
are interesting. You have 4 twins
specifically for righties.
So who are the so if you click Seattle.
Yeah,
and a Twins opponent, because they've got 4 guys, and then take out the filter because it will add a second filter there. You have to just take out the one. Just take out the there you go. So then, so Wu, right-handed hitter, pretty high FIP. His barrel rate 9.4%, and if we scroll back over to the ISO against, just quickly see like what has he been doing in his last 3.
Oops, my bad.
Yeah, go to starters.
Against.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is. Yeah.
All right, so he's almost at 200 again. So like now, and then if I go to, I'm going to just kind of exit full screen to quickly just see like what is the extra base hit line, because if that is plus money for like 3.5, I'm going to like that quite a bit for the Twins. So I'm in the, let's just see the green.
Yeah, the Twins. Here. It's a good one. I mean, the Twins just had a terrible weekend series, but
let's see extra base hit. Oh yeah, so I mean, now there's a ton of juice on this one. So maybe see if you can wait till it gets to it's over 2.5 minus 175. But like, okay, if I don't play that solo, maybe I'm throwing that in a parlay or something there that I could potentially use, because you've got 4 guys that have been hitting right-handed pitching quite well, and you've got a starter that tends to actually give up a bunch of extra base hits. So yeah, that's
I didn't even know that we had that. I didn't even know we had that, and it's awesome. Cubs are not hitting lefties very well.
There's a lot of stuff on here. Like you can.
I didn't even tell them. Look at that. It's our site, and I just find something new as soon as I.
This site actually started with literally Adam and I just talking about him going into Fangraphs and trying to select manually every single pitcher for the next day, and then talking about, well, which guys are the leading in hard hit rate allowed. So I just built like a super simple web page that just showed starters for tomorrow, and then you could sort by hard hit rate, and it's grown quite a bit. It's like I said, it's our baby. It's now.
I found one that we want. I found one we want. We want Angels over extra base hits.
Extra base hits. Yeah. Oh, 311.
There's like 4 guys. Really high. There's like 4 guys on the team, and Walker Buehler is disgusting. I mean, one guy is doing well against righties, but the overall team is just kind of clubbing the ball.
Oh, that's even a better price actually than the Twins one, because they're 2.5 minus 160. Still haven't made it to 3.5, but
Yeah, I like the wait, so who's 2.5 on it? The Angels?
But like, okay, so the Angels went are they playing the Angels? Okay. But see, like 2.5 minus 160, you can also get doubles over 1.5 plus 125.
Sure.
So, if you don't want to
what do you want to get real micro there?
Yeah, then
Nobody on that
doubles.
team is fast. So no, it's cool. That's it. That's what I got on it. I like it. Now I'm excited to put in I have a couple bets now that I want to put in. And it's a weird slate today, so our options are a little limited, but this is I think super helpful for everybody. It's kind of the primer on how to use our stuff.